Hi, take a look at this code snippet. What do you think might be problematic here in the context of understanding what the code does? The problem here is that the mathematical expression's meaning is very unclear. The if statement checks if some expression is greater than budget. But why? What's the meaning of it? So, the way to solve that unclear meaning is actually quite simple, and very similar to what we've learned in the previous lesson. We'll take that expression and give it a name, total order cost, in this case. Now this if statement checks if total order cost is greater than budget, which makes a lot of sense. Same here. What's salary plus bonus, and so on? And why do we check if it's smaller than minimum income? It's very hard to tell. The solution? Again, we'll take that expression, give it a name, total income in this case, and then replace the expression with its new name in the if statement. Now checking if total income is less than minimum income makes sense. But wait a minute, we haven't actually made the expression any simpler. We just made its meaning clearer. But the expression itself is still very complex. How can we make the expression itself easier to understand? So let's take the total income together with its expression, and what we'll do in order to simplify it is simply divide it into its parts. So first, we'll take the innermost part, stock value times stock options, and we'll call that stock options value. Next, we'll add the salary and the bonus, as in the original expression, and we'll call that taxable income. And finally, we'll take the last part of the expression as well, and the result we'll get is again total income. Note that this expression is not only easier to read, but it's also much easier to debug. If the original expression doesn't give you the result you expect, trying to figure out what went wrong will probably mean comparing each variable to its expected value. So, checking what salary holds, what bonus holds, and so on, and finally, calculating everything together. In the refactored version, however, we have the expression as a series of simple small steps, so we can see if the stock options value is what we expected. If not, we found our bug, and if it is what we expected, we can move on to check taxable income, and so on until we get to the result. It's much easier this way to find miscalculations. So, let's go back to the first complex expression we saw, the total order cost. Now, let's try to simplify it as well. First, we'll take price times quantity. We'll call it base cost. Then, the tax cost is the base cost times the tax rate divided by 100. Next, we'll take out the shipping cost. And finally, the total order cost is the sum of those three parts. Note here that since tax costs calculation is based on base cost, we use the base cost variable, thus not repeating ourselves by calculating it again. And by not repeating ourselves, we reduce the chances of typing errors. And again, much easier to read, understand, and debug. So to conclude, the problem we saw is that expressions are meaningless. They don't tell us their meaning, just how to calculate them. The solution we saw is to name them, and if they are comprised of meaningful parts, to name those parts as well. And that's all for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one.